In a crowded bar, a biker's aggressive outburst led to a torn shirt and a stunned silence when the waitress's hidden truth was revealed, turning a moment of chaos into one of awe and respect. The bar was packed that Friday night, the air thick with the smell of beer and fried food. It was a small establishment on the outskirts of Tulsa, Oklahoma, a place where locals gathered after long work weeks to unwind. The jukebox played a steady stream of country hits, and the chatter of patrons mixed with the clink of glasses. At the center of it all was Kayla Johnson, a 28-year-old waitress who moved through the crowd with practiced ease, balancing trays of drinks and plates of wings while dodging the occasional overly friendly hand. Kayla was used to the rowdy atmosphere. She'd been working at Rusty's bar for 3 years, long enough to know how to handle drunk customers and keep the peace. She was petite, with shoulder-length braids and a quick smile that disarmed even the grumpiest regulars. But tonight, one table in the corner was proving to be a challenge. A group of bikers had rolled in around 9 p.m., their leather jackets emblazoned with the logo of a local motorcycle club. They were loud, their laughter booming over the music, and their empty beer bottles were piling up fast. At the head of the group was a man named Rick Malone, a burly 40-something with a shaved head and a scar running down his left cheek. Rick was known around town for his temper, especially after a few drinks. He'd been coming to Rusty for years, and while he usually kept to himself, tonight he was in a mood. Kayla had already served his table 3 rounds, each time brushing off his crude comments with a polite smile. But as the night wore on, Rick's behavior grew bolder. "Hey, sweetheart," Rick called as Kayla passed by with a tray of drinks. "You gonna keep ignoring me, or are you gonna give me some real service?" Kayla paused, keeping her tone professional. "I'm doing my best, sir. You need another round?" Rick leaned back in his chair, his eyes narrowing. "What I need is for you to stop acting like you're too good for us. Always rushing around, barely looking at me. What's your deal?" The other bikers at the table laughed, egging him on. Kayla's smile tightened, but she didn't take the bait. "I'll get you another beer," she said, turning to head back to the bar. Rick wasn't done. He stood, his chair scraping against the floor, and grabbed Kayla's arm. "Hold up," he said, his voice slurring slightly. "I'm talking to you." Kayla froze, her tray wobbling but not falling. The bar quieted slightly, heads turning to see what was happening. The bartender, a grizzled man named Tom, looked up from pouring a drink, his hand hovering near the phone. Kayla met Rick's gaze, her voice calm but firm. "Let go of my arm, sir." Rick smirked, clearly enjoying the attention. "Or what? You gonna call the cops? Kick me out yourself." He tugged at her sleeve, and before anyone could react, the fabric of her shirt tore, a long rip exposing her shoulder and part of her chest. The bar went silent. Kayla's face flushed, but she didn't move, her eyes locked on Rick's. The other patrons stared, some in shock, others waiting to see what would happen next. Rick's grin faltered as his eyes dropped to the exposed skin, and what he saw made him stop cold. Underneath Kayla's torn shirt was a tattoo, intricate and unmistakable. It was a detailed design of a dog tag with the words U.S. Marine Corps etched across it, surrounded by a wreath of laurel leaves. Below it, a series of dates and the emblem of a combat medic stood out against her skin. The tattoo wasn't just decorative. It was a badge of honor, one that told a story few in the bar could have guessed. Rick's hand fell away, his bravado gone. "You're a Marine?" he stammered, his voice barely above a whisper. Kayla didn't flinch. She pulled her torn shirt back over her shoulder, her expression unyielding. "Served 6 years. 2 tours in Afghanistan. Combat medic. Saved a few lives, patched up more. You got a problem with that?" The bar was still quiet, the weight of her words settling over the room. Rick took a step back, his face pale. The other bikers at his table exchanged glances, their earlier laughter replaced by awkward silence. Tom, the bartender, stepped out from behind the counter, a dish towel slung over his shoulder. "Rick, you're done for the night," he said, his tone leaving no room for argument. "Pay your tab and get out." Rick didn't argue. He fumbled for his wallet, tossing a handful of bills on the table before heading for the door, his friends trailing behind. The other patrons watched them go, then turned their attention back to Kayla. She stood there, her torn shirt still clutched in one hand, her tray balanced in the other. For a moment, no one spoke. Then, an older man at a nearby table stood and started clapping. Slowly. Others joined in, the applause growing until the bar was filled with the sound. Kayla's cheeks reddened, but she shook her head, waving off the attention. All right, she said, her voice light but firm. Show's over. Who needs a refill? The crowd chuckled, the tension breaking. Kayla went back to work, moving through the tables as if nothing had happened. But the mood in the bar had shifted. Patrons who'd barely noticed her before now watched her with a mix of curiosity and respect. Some approached her later in the night, asking about her service. Kayla kept her answers short. She wasn't one for dwelling on the past. Did what I had to do, she'd say, then change the subject. As the night wound down, Tom pulled Kayla aside. You okay? He asked, his gruff voice soft with concern. Kayla nodded, adjusting her torn shirt, which she'd tied into a knot to keep in place. I'm fine. Not the first time someone's gotten out of line. Tom shook his head. You didn't have to let it get that far. Why didn't you say something sooner? About being a Marine? Kayla shrugged. Doesn't come up in conversation much. Besides, I don't do this job to talk about myself. Tom studied her for a moment, then nodded. Fair enough, but you're getting a new shirt on the house. And maybe a raise. Kayla laughed, the sound genuine. I'll take the shirt. By the time the bar closed, the story of what had happened was already spreading. Regulars shared it with friends, and soon, word got around town about the waitress who'd faced down a biker and revealed a past that left everyone stunned. Kayla didn't care much for the attention. She showed up for her next shift in a new shirt, her smile as warm as ever, ready to keep the drinks flowing and the peace intact. For those who'd been in the bar that night, though, Kayla wasn't just a waitress anymore. She was a reminder that strength often lies beneath the surface, hidden until it's needed most. And for Rick Malone, it was a lesson in humility, one he wouldn't forget anytime soon.